Hey everybody, welcome back to round 32 of Inside the Clinch. My name is Eric, joined as always by Johnny. This week we're going to give you guys a preview of the longly anticipated UFC pay-per-view, UFC 264, headlined by Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, the trilogy. We're going to give you our thoughts on the card. A lot of great fights on this card. We didn't have any fights this past weekend, so the UFC is definitely giving us a great card next weekend to make up for the missed time.
Yeah, before we get into the card, I just want to wish you and the audience a happy 4th of July, and also a happy birthday to America, the best country in the world. Yes, how was your 4th of July?
It was good. My grandma's birthday is actually on the 4th of July, so we spent some time with her the first half of the day. And then the second half, I got to the city to watch some of the fireworks, the Macy's Day Parade. It was pretty nice. You and I were together, of course. So it was a nice show.
Yeah, happy birthday to your grandma, and as I said, happy
Thank you.
birthday to America.
So we're going to get through the entire card. So we're going to start from the very beginning. The early prelims begin on 6:15 p.m. this Saturday. It's going to be available on UFC Fight Pass. And that's going to be started off by Hu Yazong versus Alan Amedovsky. Next up, we're going to have Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Jerome Rivera. Zhalgas put on a very interesting fight last time he was in the ring, so curious to see how he performs this time. Next week, we're going to have Omari Akhmedov versus Brad Tavares, which is going to be another interesting fight at middleweight.
I'm not sure what the betting odds on that fight is, but I would say put all your money on Akhmedov, man.
He's actually
Um,
the underdog, plus 135.
Akhmedov is the underdog, so I would go with Akhmedov here, the Dagestani fighter. Brad Tavares has a bunch of losses on his record, so if he's the underdog, I would go with him.
Yeah, could be a betting opportunity right there, guys. To wrap up the early prelims, we have Jennifer Maia versus Jessica Ai, women's flyweight bout. Kind of ironic how not too long ago both these women's were on main events, but now they're on the early prelims, which is very contradictory to Chael Sonnen's theory how main event fighters stay on main events and prelim fighters stay on prelims.
You know what happens after this spot that they just had, because, like when they're no longer on the prelims. You know what happens after that, right?
They pack their bags and go back to where they came from.
Exactly. So this is a showcase fight for both of these fighters. I wish them both the best of luck. But yeah, as you said, they're no longer main event fighters, but they are exciting. They do have some exciting fights under their resume, so I'm actually looking forward to that fight very much.
Yeah, I think Jennifer Maia probably will win by submission here. But yeah, this is definitely a fight to look out for and great way to wrap up the early prelims. Then moving on, we're going to have the regular prelim card that begins at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be available on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Starting that card off, we have Trevin Giles versus Dricus Du Plessis. Then we have another one of my favorites. Ryan Hall is returning against Ilia Topuria. This is going to be a very, very interesting matchup, in my opinion. Ryan Hall is a submission specialist. He's very dangerous. He looks like one of these nerdy, dorky guys that poses no threat. But I mean, we've seen him get some of the nastiest submissions in the UFC.
Yeah,
And
he has that win over Frankie Edgar with
oh
that
yeah,
was that submission was absolutely ridiculous. But Topuria is not no scrub on the ground. He has 7 wins by submission, so it's going to be an exciting fight. I would say this could be one of the best fights on the card. Just looking at it on paper.
yeah, I'm expecting this one to be interesting. Topuria is definitely a very hot, up and rising prospect. Definitely been watching his last couple of fights. Very exciting as well. Um, Ryan Hall is the underdog here, but to be honest, I think he has been in his last few fights where he's pulled off the upset. So this is going to be interesting. Is he going to be, an underdog getting his hand raised again, or are we going to see Ilia Topuria continue his streak and continue to do a great job? I mean, that guy is a really interesting prospect, and I feel like not too many people know who he is yet.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. But who are you going with on this fight?
I want to say Tapora, but something tells me Ryan Hall can sneak in a submission there any second. You know what I mean? And that's making me double guess myself.
I don't really see Taporia getting submitted. Ryan Hall is very elusive with it. He's like very tactical, but I feel like Taporia is just he's too experienced for this stuff. Like he's not gonna pull off on Frankie Edgar or anything like that. This dude is he's the real deal. For the fans that haven't seen him fight yet, he's really good. So this is gonna be an exciting fight, and as I said, one of the fights that I'm most looking forward to, aside from obviously the notorious Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier trilogy. But this is gonna be an exciting one, and so I'm excited.
So next on the card, we have Niko Price versus Michele Perrira. I think this is going to be another fan favorite fight. Michele Perrira, for those that haven't seen, for those that don't know him by name, maybe know him by the way he performs. He's that fighter that's always doing backflips and jumping off the cages and pretty much putting on more of a show than a fight for us in the octagon the last couple times. And he's taking on Niko
I
Price.
mean, listen, his shows gets the job done. I know he has some losses on his record, but he's on a win streak right now. He does look very flashy in his fights, but that's what makes him a fan favorite. So like, I love watching him fight. So
My only criticism is that, now that he's up with the higher ranked guys, he can't be doing that. When he was fighting lower ranked individuals, like, he can be a little bit more flashy and less technical and get away with it, put on a great show. But, once you get in there with some of the higher level strikers like Niko Price or the other guys in the division, you could leave yourself for an opening that you're going to regret later. So,
but I feel like that's just his tactic. Look, he's like a capoeira, like, what do you want to call him? Like a capoeira, kung fu,
yeah. Capoeira,
karate
is the right word for his style.
Yeah, so that's just his style of fighting, and it's flashy, but it's also beautiful at the same time, and it's effective. When he lands, it's a bad night for his opponent. So, Niko Price should get out of the way. But if I feel like if the fight goes the distance, I'm gonna go with Niko Price.
I feel like Niko Price is a little bit more of a disciplined mixed martial artist. He's not as flashy, but I feel like he may be able to get the job done here. It's going to be curious to see. I think if Michele Perrira continues to do all the acrobatic stuff, I don't think it's going to be an easy night for him. But, if he can get himself under control and actually piece together his MMA, I think he can actually put on a good show because he is a good mixed martial artist. He does have a range of different tactics, his striking, his takedowns. So as long as he doesn't fool around too much, I think this will be another fight that might be fight of the night.
Listen, Pereira currently has the momentum on his side. He's coming off a win over Chaos Williams, who's like a really good prospect. Niko Price, I don't know if you remember, but he's coming off a no contest with Donald Cerrone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if momentum says anything about this fight, I feel like it should favor Pereira, but if you look at it tactically, I'll probably have to go with Niko Price on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. To wrap up the prelims, we have Carols Condit versus Max Griffin. This is going to be another interesting one. We still see Carols Condit is in the mix. He's one of those guys that you and I both watched when we were very young. We watched him just grow through the sport, through the Ultimate Fighter. And, he's one of the few guys that are still from his generation that are still kicking and fighting. And I'm excited to see him back in there.
Yeah, not only is he kicking and fighting, but he's also on a winning streak right now. But this dude, Max Griffin, he hits hard. So I feel like if this fight ends early, it's going to be Griffin by KO. But you can never count out Carols Condit. He's been in the game for, I feel like, 2 decades now. So he's an OG. He fought some of the greats like Georges St. Pierre. He's nasty with his elbows, but at the same time, he's also a little bit older in age. And Max Griffin, as I said, it's very hard. So if he could get away from that, I feel like he could get the job done tactically via decision. I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Carols Condit, I mean, he's the man, but I think if Carols Condit wants to get his hand raised here, I think he's going to have to rely on his submissions and grappling a little bit more. I feel like Max Griffin is a little bit too much more polished than Carols Condit is, and he's younger, so the power is there. And I feel like the striking is going to be a challenge for Condit.
Yeah, you could bring up the submission, but if you look at Max Griffin, he's never really been submitted before, so I don't really see Carlos winning by submission. I know he has some impressive submissions under his resume, but that was a long time ago. It's not the same Carlos Condit anymore. So I don't really see this fight ending in that way. As I said, I think this is going to be a knockout by Max Griffin and the end of Carlos Condit, unfortunately.
I agree with you. I think Max Griffin will get his hand raised here, and I think depending how Carols Condit goes out, this may be one of his last performances. All right, now we're getting on to the main card, guys. It begins at 10 p.m. Eastern, pay-per-view event. There's so many great fights on this card. To start it off, Sean O'Malley is taking on Kris Moutinho. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was originally scheduled to
fight. Who the fuck is that, Eric?
Sean O'Malley's opponent unfortunately had to drop from the fight about a week or two ago, so this was a last-minute replacement for Sean O'Malley. Kris is coming in from his UFC debut. He's coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. But to be honest, I think this is a steep mismatch by the UFC brass. I know that they were trying to keep Sean O'Malley on the card when his opponent dropped out. A lot of the rank guys wouldn't want to fight O'Malley on last-minute notice, either for training purposes or for weight-cutting issues that some of them complained about. So they had to bring in a new guy into the organization to keep O'Malley on the card. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but before we continue, I just want to say I want to apologize for like running through this. We're going extremely fast because we want to get to the main event, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the fight that most people want to listen to. But regarding this fight with OMalley, I mean, you know my thoughts on OMalley. You know how I think that the UFC is feeding him easy fights. He was supposed to fight Smoker, as you said. That fight was canceled, and Ricky Simone was one of the fighters that stepped up or was in conversation to fight him, and apparently that was too short of notice for him. So this guy, Kris Moutinho, that I've never heard of, comes into the picture. And to be honest, I really don't see a way Moutinho could win this fight. OMalley is too diverse. He's longer. I feel like he's more confident. He's more experienced. He has more octagon time. I just don't see how Moutinho is going to win this fight. I would have loved to see the fight with Ricky Simone, but unfortunately that's not happening. But I feel like if Sean O'Malley gets the job done, I think he should fight Merab. I feel like that's going to be a real test for him to see if he's really that good, because a lot of fans think he's that good, but like he's never really been tested with a real grappler, and I feel like Merab would be the perfect answer to that. But best luck to Kris Moutinho. If he gets the job done, as we said in the last podcast, it's going to be crazy coming on short notice, fighting a superstar in Sean O'Malley. If he gets the job done, it's going to be crazy. Like this dude has a 9-4 record. Beating O'Malley is going to be like the turning point of his career. So
Yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
I'm not going to lie.
I mean, look, this guy, if you look at his record, most of his wins have been from decision. He doesn't have too many knockouts, even less submissions. So he's not much of a finisher. And look, you got to be tough to be hanging in there with Sean O'Malley to go all the way to the distance. We've seen Sean O'Malley's durability has been questionable over his last couple of fights. We've seen his repeated leg injuries. Could he get another injury this fight? You never know. It's very possible. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I completely agree with you. If Kris Moutinho gets a win here, I mean, this could be one of the biggest UFC upsets or MMA upsets of the year, in my opinion.
I feel like something that Sean O'Malley is lacking is just, I don't know, it's just like
ranked
I don't
fighters.
know what the right.
That's what he needs to fight. Ranked fighters.
Yeah, that's one thing. But I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, but I feel like he just doesn't have that it factor in him. Like, if he's like losing, he's not gonna like dig deep to win. Like if he's in pain, he's gonna give up, as we saw.
I don't think that's fair to say, because I know what we saw in the last fight, but the fight before, when he broke his leg and he was fighting for a round and a half, hopping on one foot and still kicking with the leg that's broken. I mean, if that's not hard, I don't know what is. The dude snapped his shin in half and he was still won the next round and a half. Like, it's crazy. On one foot.
He's a good fighter, but obviously it wasn't to a certain extent, because we saw what happened in the Chito Vera fight. And I brought this to you before. Like, we've seen fights like John Jones and Santos, and we've seen how Santos, with basically no legs, torn everything in both knees, continues to fight with heart and almost knocks out John Jones. I just don't see that with Sean O'Malley. I feel like he's babied a little bit in the sport, and especially by the UFC brass. So I really don't see him being the best in the division. He's a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he doesn't have that it factor, as I said.
Look, a win after this fight, I think he needs a ranked opponent, whether it's top 10, top 15, whoever.
Let me ask him, does this fight mean anything for him? If he wins this fight, what does this prove to
us? At this point, no. I think this is just going to be another highlight reel knockout for his resume, for his brand. But look, he needs to fight ranked opponents. Everyone is saying this. He's been asking for it as far as I know.
And there was nobody in the top, not even ranked fighters. There was no unranked fighter, like a prospect, something that the UFC could have found to fight Sean O'Malley. They have to find this Kris Moutinho dude.
Look, a lot of people are denying
UFC debut that's like half his size, basically. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this stuff doesn't add up. If there's a different fighter, they're gonna feed him like the dogs of the division.
Look, I get why it's upsetting,
but with
yeah, hold on, relax. I get why it's upsetting. I know.
I'm getting a little heated because you know how I feel about this. Like,
I know. Relax for 1 second.
So it's the other fighters that are basically like not treated the same way.
Relax 1 second. So a lot of fighters also are saying no to Sean O'Malley. They're being offered the fights in the past. People are saying no to Sean O'Malley, whether it's the date, whether it's the venue. They're making up all different excuses. On short notice, people are not. Dude, I don't work for that. I'm not Sean Shelby. I don't know who these guys are, but there have been fights that were offered to Sean O'Malley that have been turned down. So on short notice, I'm sure even more people said no. I think what I was saying is, regardless of what he has to win here, like this, he has to get his hand raised this weekend. And I think after that, he definitely needs top 10, top 15, whether it's someone like Merab, who I was saying all of last week they should have made this weekend
I'd
the
love
fight
to see
for.
that.
Anyone in the top 10, top 15, I think Sean O'Malley needs to fight next.
Listen, give him. I think Marab is going to beat him. Give him Ricky Simone. I feel like that would be a great
Ricky Simone is also a
fight.
great fight.
Yeah, Ricky Simone would be a great fight. I feel like that would be a great test for him because with Marab, I think Marab is just going to ragdoll him on the floor. Like, to be honest, I feel like that's what's going to happen. But I know I was getting a little frustrated, but I'm not. This is not anything against Sean O'Malley. It's just this whole concept of the UFC just treating fighters differently is just kind of annoying, you know?
Yeah, look, they have a star. They're trying to preserve it while they have it. But, look, if, like we said, if Kris gets his hand raised here, I think the brightness is going to go out on Sean O'Malley's
By the
star.
way, did you hear how Sean O'Malley posted the other day saying that he's going to be a bigger star than Conor McGregor?
Hey, he might be, man. The
You
dude
think
has
so?
almost no fights. He's on the undercard. Like he's young. He's basically in the beginning of his career, and everyone already knows who he is, man. Like he has an insane following. He doesn't have the population of Ireland following him, but the trajectory that he's on this early on in his
He doesn't
career.
really.
I mean,
I feel like he doesn't really have the personality either to draw those
no, I feel
fans.
like
You know?
he doesn't have the aggressive personality, but a lot of people like him. He's a big gamer, so a lot of gamers like him. He's a big pot smoker, so a lot of stoners like him. He gets himself involved in a lot of different things, and I feel like he's not going to walk away from the sport like Conor did. As big as Conor is and was, I feel like he could have been so much bigger if he stayed with either boxing or MMA. But he stepped away from the sport for a few years, and I think that impacted his career and his popularity.
I mean, I think O'Malley's going to be a superstar. I said earlier that I referred to him as a superstar already, but to say that he's going to be Conor McGregor level, I don't know about all that. But let's continue.
All right, so next on the card we have Irene Aldana versus Yana Kunitskaya. This is going to be a fight at the women's bantamweight division. I'm a fan of Irene Aldana. She's a very tough girl. She's a little bit shorter than Yana Kunitskaya. The girls have the same reach, but Yana does have a couple of leg inch reach advantage. I think Yana's game plan here is going to have to be to keep Irene at a distance. I think when Irene is able to get close, she has very heavy hands for someone in the division. She has those hooks. I mean, we've seen her drop girls. Beth Carrera is someone that comes to my mind. And Irene Aldana is also very dangerous on the ground. She has a lot of submission wins. Excuse me. She has a few submission wins, but she's very comfortable on the ground. I don't know. I feel like Irene is tough enough to get her hand raised here. I'm personally not very impressed with Yana overall, but I mean, she is a solid contender nonetheless.
Yeah, I feel like this fight could honestly go either way. It's one of the fights on the card that I'm not really too excited about, to be completely honest with you. But I'm probably gonna go with Kunitskaya. I just think I'm just a little bit more impressed with her previous performances, and I'm actually gonna have to go with her on this one.
Really? I'll do a side bet with you this weekend if you want on this fight. I'm leaning a
I'm
little bit
down. We
more
could.
towards Aldana.
All right. Next on the card, we have Tai Tuivasa fighting Greg Hardy. Tai Tuivasa, he was a huge prospect coming into the UFC. Won his first 9 fights in the UFC, and then went on a skid, losing to JDS, Blagoy and Spivak. Since then, he's been on a 2-fight winning streak, defeating Struve and Hunsucker. Greg Hardy, on the other hand, he's a former NFL fighter. He does have a reach advantage in the fight. Listen, this fight it could go either way. They're both very heavy hitters, but I would have to go side with Tai Tuivasa on this one. I feel like he's a little bit more experienced. We see how Greg Hardy's stamina doesn't really always let him progress to the fight as he wants to. So I'm gonna go with Tai Tuivasa merely because of his experience and just his overall MMA IQ.
So I'm actually excited for this one. Tai Tuivasa is someone I was a big fan of, not necessarily for his performance in the ring, but more so of his personality outside the ring. He always gets the crowd really excited. He always does, after he wins, or I think even when he loses, on the way out, he'll do a shoey from like a random fan's shoe. He'll pour a beer in there and chug it. So he has a very vibrant personality. He's looks like just a very happy kind of guy. Greg Hardy, on the other hand, he's someone that's had a career full of controversies. Both when he was in the NFL and in MMA. He's had a few questionable fights in MMA. We've had the whole inhaler situation. We've had the illegal knee situation. But look, this is someone that transitioned to MMA later in his life, so he doesn't have all the experience that some of the other fighters have. And if we're just going strictly on who's the better fighter, I would say Tai Tuivasa is definitely the more polished and better MMA fighter. But Greg Hardy is going to be a bit taller and a bit bigger than Tai. And I think we've seen in the past Tai Tuivasa has had trouble with guys that are bigger than him. He's had just problems getting on the inside and doing what it is that he needs to do to get the job done. So in my opinion, I think the size is going to be the main problem for Tai Tuivasa to get over. I think if he can find a way to, just move around him and get him tired, and like you said, get Greg Hardy into the later rounds, I think that'll definitely pay off very well for Tai.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that both of these fighters, we could classify them as knockout artists. Tai Tuivasa has, I believe, something close to 10 knockouts on his resume. I'm including knockouts and TKO victories. And then you have Greg Hardy, who has about 5 to 6 of them, and he only has around like 10 fights or so. So this fight could go either way. I feel like the size could be a big difference in the fight, but the thing about Tai Tuivasa, I feel like he's just technically a lot better. As you
I
mentioned,
agree.
Greg Hardy started doing this at a later age, and for the age that he started doing this, he's accomplished a lot. Just his athletic ability is giving him all the success in MMA. But I feel like Tai Tuivasa is going to be able to pick him apart. I don't know if it's going to be early in the fight, but I feel like as the fight progresses and Greg Hardy gets more tired, I feel like it's going to be an easy opening for Tai Tuivasa to win the fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. And neither of these guys really like going to the ground, so I don't expect to see any wrestling unless one of them trip or gets knocked down. So I'm expecting a stand and bang for this fight. Perhaps even a knockout of the night.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. What is that thing called when he chugs out of the shoe?
The shoey. Yeah, it's called the shoey.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. If you were there and he offered you one of those, what would you say? Would you?
I would never drink a beer out of someone's shoe, man. I don't know. Maybe a brand new shoe, but even then I would hesitate. I don't know how he does it in someone's sweaty ass shoe that's been worn all day.
Even a brand new shoe, you wouldn't do it?
I would be more open to doing it with a new shoe than a worn shoe, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I don't think I'd ever do that either. It's so disgusting. Like standing, like the person that he's getting the shoe from has just been standing on it, watching these fights for hours, and
jumping off his seat, probably sweating.
And all the previous times that this person wore this shoe, and just it's so gross and so
fuck that.
It's so dangerous. Like who knows what type of like bacteria and fungus are in those. It's so gross.
I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a complaint from like the UFC or USADA or any kind of just like health protocol violations just from doing that, because I can't imagine it's safe.
I feel like they're gonna do something like that after an incident happens, if it does. But like until then, it's kind of like there's nothing to say. Oh yeah, don't do a shoey. Like that's part of his like culture, in his country. Yeah. They all just watch games and play rugby and do shoeys together. That's just how they have a good time.
All right, man. Let's move on to the co-main event. We have Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm excited to see Wonderboy back in there. He has had a bit of a layoff. I think he's been holding out to try to get that title fight against Usman, but I think it's about time that he realizes he needs at least one more good performance until he can make a claim for that UFC title. What are your thoughts on this fight, man?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Thompson in his last few fights. He's coming off of wins over Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal. Burns, as you know, is coming off a loss to Usman. But early in the fight, Burns did have his success. He did wobble Usman, so he does have the punching power to knock out Stephen Thompson. But then that raises a question of if that's even possible, because Stephen Thompson is so good on the feet. Mm-hmm. And one way that Burns could win the fight is maybe by taking him down. But we know how good Stephen Thompson's takedown defense is. It's something close to 80%. And Burns' takedown accuracy, I just looked it up right before we recorded this, is close to 35%. So I really don't see how Burns, aside from if he gets a lucky shot or maybe if he's able to somehow take him down. But I feel like if he takes him down, he's not going to be able to keep him down on the floor, or he won't be able to take him down multiple times, because we've seen how wrestlers like Tyron Woodley have such a hard time taking down Stephen Thompson. So I'm going to go with Stephen Thompson on this one via decision. How about you, buddy?
Yeah, so this fight, big win here, not just a win, but a big win here can get either one of the fighters the next title shot. Even that means skipping Leon Edwards once again, potentially, which I hope does not happen, because I definitely think Leon deserves a title. But in any case, Wonderboy does have, I think, about a 4-inch reach advantage, which is going to be very crucial in this fight. Wonderboy is very good at keeping his opponents at a distance, and I think that's going to be the major key to victory here. We know how well Wonderboy utilized keeping his opponents at a distance when he fought Vicente Luque. And to be honest, he did a very good job with that against Jeff Neal as well. I did not expect Wonderboy to win that fight.
Me neither.
Yeah, so Burns, I mean, look, the guy is very explosive and he has very, very strong punches and he can knock out Wonderboy if he can get on the inside. But I think he's going to have a very hard time getting on the inside. He is shorter, he is smaller, and I think just his style is just unfavorable compared to Wonderboy's. I think Wonderboy's style karate stance, just the way he moves around, I think will be a big factor. And like you said, Gilbert Burns will probably have a difficult time taking Wonderboy down. Wonderboy, for a karate style fighter, he has some of the greatest takedown defense in the division.
Yeah, I see this fight going in 3 ways. So, way number 1, somebody knocks the other person out early. That could be Stephen Thompson or that could be Burns. The other option is Burns wins via submission. He takes on Thompson and he utilizes his world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wins the fight on the ground. The third option is the way I see the fight going, and that's via decision for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I feel like he's just going to outpoint him. Burns is going to have a hard time taking him down, and that's just going to be the entire fight.
I agree. I think it probably will go to the decision. And if that is the case, I do think Wonderboy may need one more fight to make a claim for the title shot because, we have a lot of things going on the top of that division right now. Maybe he fights Masvidal again. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how these next couple of fights play out in the division. But I don't think if it goes to decision, I don't think Wonderboy would necessarily earn a title shot.
I don't know if he earned the title shot with a decision. I mean, yeah, so it depends what type of fight it is. But I feel like Stephen Thompson is already up there in age. He's 38 years old, and as is Burns, he's 35. So I feel like with the win here, with Burns is, I believe, number 1 or number 2 in the division right now. I feel like with the win over with the win over Gilbert Burns, I feel like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I don't know if he's earned the right, but I feel like I would give it to him because he is the nicest guy in the UFC. So I'd love to see him fight for the title one more time. We know how the fights went with Tyron Woodley. Didn't go his way, so I would love to see him fight for it one more time before his career is over. And now moving on to the main event of the evening. Your boy Conor McGregor is back fighting the Louisiana man Dustin Poirier in the trilogy. One of the most anticipated trilogies and rematches of all time. What do you think of this matchup? Do you still have Conor McGregor as the victor in this one?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. This weekend's finally almost here. We get to see the trilogy, so we get to figure out who the real best lightweight is out of these two guys. I still think Conor McGregor is going to win. I hope he wins via KO because realistically, if it's not by KO, I don't know how Conor is going to win. If it goes the distance, I think Poirier has the heart to get his hand raised. And if it goes to the ground, I think Poirier has the abilities to get the submission or even control the ground time to get the ground and pound and win that way. But I don't know. There's 2 GOATs, like we mentioned last week, came out, Khabib and GSP. Khabib said that if Conor wins, it's going to be in the first round via knockout, but anything past the first is going to be Poirier's game. And GSP came out and said that Conor's probably going to win in the second round via TKO. I'm hoping one of them are right, man. I love Dustin Poirier. He's a great guy, but I don't know. I feel like Conor McGregor needs this win here in order to proceed with the rest of his career. I feel like if he gets another loss here, this might be the end of his hype.
To be honest, it doesn't really matter to me what the GOATs have to say about this fight because I've seen Conor McGregor fight and I've seen Dustin Poirier's last few fights. So Dustin Poirier's last 7 fights since that no contest with Eddie Alvarez, remember that illegal knee that Eddie Alvarez threw? Yep. Since then, Poirier has won 6 out of 7 fights. The only fight that he's lost is to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Conor McGregor is 3-3 in his last fight. He has lost to Nate Diaz, bro. So I'm not gonna side with you on this one. I'm gonna go with my boy Dustin Poirier. I don't really see how Conor McGregor is going to get the job done. And Dustin Poirier is I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Like, what else does the guy have to do? Like, he wins every fight. He wins almost every single fight. He has wins over people like Dan Hooker, Holloway, Alvarez, Gaethje, Pettis. Like, What has Conor McGregor done in the past few years that makes you think that he's going to win this fight? I just don't understand. I understand there's a name behind Conor McGregor. I understand the hype. And I understand that you want Conor McGregor to win because it's Conor McGregor. But, like, I just don't understand where people are getting this stuff from.
Look, I'm going to tell you this because I forgot if it was the last podcast or one of the past episodes, but I remember telling you. So Conor McGregor almost got the TKO in the first round in the rematch that he had with Poirier. Obviously, Poirier stuck it through. You know, he was tough. He toughed it out. He was able to get back on his feet and survive the round. But Conor did get very close to a knockout. And, I mean, people are acting like this didn't happen. The first round was a very clear round, like, for Conor, in my opinion, that in their rematch. I don't know. This fight could be much closer. I think it might go a little bit further into the distance, which will favor Poirier. But I feel like Conor, he has the power. He has the technique. I feel like he needs to come in with a right amount of confidence, not the, you know, I'm better than you. I beat you before and, like, you can't do anything to me confidence. But, like, you know, the confidence he had when he was coming up in the division, the hunger, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he hasn't been doing any media this past training camp, which has been a big thing that we mentioned last week as well. We saw him come out of a restaurant earlier this week. We posted a video. There was so many fans that came out. So, like, look, people are rooting for Conor. He is feeling the love. I feel like he's not dealing with all the external bullshit that he has been in the past. And I feel like he's taking this training camp very seriously.
Okay, yeah. To argue your point, so yeah, Conor McGregor, he probably did win the fight on the judges' scorecards the first round in their last fight. But I would advise you to go watch the fight with Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier. I would advise you to go watch the fight with Gaethje or Holloway. If you look at the fight, you could see how Dustin Poirier gets rocked. He gets beat up. He's all bloody, but he continues to fight. That's just the way Dustin Poirier fights.
Yeah, but those opponents don't have the power that Conor has.
Of course they do. You think Justin Gaethje doesn't have the power? Justin Gaethje probably
he doesn't hit the same. He doesn't hit the same way. It's not the same level of precision. It's the way Conor hits.
What about Holloway? He doesn't have precision either.
He has precision, but he doesn't have the power that Conor has. And he's also from a weight class below, so you can't really put Holloway into this conversation right now.
Okay, the point is that, listen, bro, Dustin Poirier has gotten beat up in fights, and
he's a beast. He has heart, man. Look, I'm not taking that away from him.
And one thing that we forgot to mention is that Dustin Poirier is probably going to take Conor McGregor down to the floor because he knows that Conor McGregor is vulnerable on the floor. And Conor McGregor went on social media and basically said the first one that goes to the floor is basically a dusty bitch.
And I think that's the exact reason why. I think that's the exact reason why Poirier should go for the takedown immediately. I think, look, it was a great game plan last time. He got Conor down to the ground, and we saw Conor panicking almost immediately to get up to the feet. I think if they can impose that threat from the beginning again, it'll be a great thing for Conor to be conscious of and make him maybe hesitate what he does going forward.
It's still like the guy. It's like the guy from Never Back Down said, "It's mixed martial arts. Mix it up." So. So Dustin Poirier, I feel like he's going to utilize his grappling, which is superior to Conor McGregor's. Not to say Conor McGregor has bad grappling, but Dustin Poirier, I feel like, has the advantage in that department. Conor McGregor obviously has a route to victory, but I just feel like just spacing it off their last few fights, the last few performances. If this was 2016, 2017, I'll probably go with Conor McGregor. But just looking at their career these past 4 or 5 years, it's kind of hard to not side with Dustin Poirier. So I'm going to go with the Louisiana man, the hot sauce legend, Dustin Poirier.
I got Conor, man. I'm down to do a side bet on that one with you as well. I don't know. This is going to be a very exciting pay-per-view. Conor McGregor is back. Guys, it's going to be a very, very stacked card from start to bottom. So you're going to want to tune in for this one.
Yeah, but there's one thing that I forgot to mention, and I don't know how much weight this carries, but in their rematches, and this is something that I posted on our social media. So in their rematches, Dustin Poirier is 3-0, while Conor McGregor is 1-1. So
that's a very good point.
You could give credit to that. I don't know how much credit you could give to that, to be honest, but doesn't mean anything. What do you think?
Oh, I think it definitely means something. Look, it shows that Poirier is able to make the adjustments that he needs when he's able to go fight the same man again. He's had a taste of what they've done in the past. He makes the adjustments he needs to do, and he comes back and gets his hand raised. So, I mean, that's props to him for that.
Yeah, and talking about adjustments, right? What type of adjustments is Conor McGregor going to make to prevent those leg kicks in this fight?
I think his stance is going to be I think his stance is going to be a big factor because a lot of people were noticing a different stance. I think he's going to be lighter on his feet. And I also think he's going to come up with some kind of counter for that, because I don't think Conor's just going to stand there and allow him, because he knows that that was the reason that he lost the last fight. So he's going to come up with some kind of counter or some kind of answer for that, whether it's a changing of stance or moving position or countering with a punch or a kick of some kind. I think Conor's team is going to come up with an answer, because for them to not fix a loophole like that in their game going into a trilogy fight with Poirier, I think is going to be a big mistake on their end.
Listen, as I said, I'm gonna side with Dustin Poirier, but if you're right, if Conor McGregor wins, I'd be ecstatic, because beating somebody like Dustin Poirier, has only one loss to Khabib in years now, it's gonna put Conor McGregor almost back to where he was prior to this fight. You know, he's gonna be. You seen how Conor McGregor gets that like ovation coming out of dinner. Like, Conor mania is real, and if he wins this fight, it's gonna be a huge deal, because not many people beat Dustin Poirier. So.
Look, I think
either way this fight goes, I'm gonna be satisfied, unless you and I have some type of bet going on, which I'm probably gonna win. So
we'll see about that.
Aside from that, I'll probably be happy with either win.
I actually think that regardless of the outcome, Conor here is going to have the option of the Nate trilogy fight, regardless of the outcome. I think the outcome is going to be dependent on how big the Nate trilogy fight can be. You know, obviously, if Conor wins, that fight's going to be huge. But if Conor loses, maybe not as many people are going to be tuning in to watch Conor get his ass beat again. But we'll see, man. A lot of questions are going to be answered this Saturday.
Okay, let's say Conor wins this fight. Why does he have to fight Nate Diaz? I don't get that. Why?
I mean, I don't think Conor deserves to be in a title contention spot, because there's so many well-deserving people right now. And Nate Diaz is someone else who, I mean, look, he's not really a title contender. He's a big name, and their trilogy fight, I mean, can make a fuck ton of money for both fighters and the UFC.
Listen, the winner of this fight is getting the title opportunity. I know we always talk about this fair stuff, but, you know, the winner of this fight, I feel like Dana White has said this. The winner of this fight is going to get the title shot. So
Conor doesn't deserve it, though, with the win. I'm rooting for Conor, and I'm telling you, with the win here, he does not deserve to be in the title shot yet. Look, he has not been performing well. He is not the top of the division, and I think he needs to get back in the top before he can get a title shot. It's just my opinion.
My brother, you always talk about this deserve crap. There's no deserve in this UFC brass. Just like Sean O'Malley hasn't deserved anything, is getting spoon-fed everything. There's no deserving in this organization. You know, if Conor McGregor wins, he's gonna get the title shot because he's Conor McGregor. And if Dustin Poirier is gonna win, he's bound to get it too, because he was supposed to fight for the title, but he denied that because he wanted to fight Conor McGregor for the payday. So the winner of this fight is going to fight for the title. So that's the end result of this fight.
Yeah, man. Big weekend. A lot of questions going to be answered this weekend. Guys, the pay-per-view is going to be 10 p.m. Eastern. Definitely going to want to tune in for this one. As always, thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. If you haven't, guys, please leave us a rating on any platform that you're listening on. It definitely makes a big difference for us. And as always, follow us on Instagram. We are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thank you, guys. Catch you next week.